journalist and an editor of Swazi News. That's Zweli Dlamini. He joins us in conversation following some of the latest of news that we've since been inundated with, that the pro-democracy opposition leader has since been rushed to a hospital here in our country after poisoning scare. Spiking panic among his comrades. You'd remember that the PUDEMO president, that's Makhanya, fled, from his house after it was bombed back in 2002, and it's among those other things. But Zweli joins us in conversation this evening to give more context as to what's really happening with Lungisi Makhanya. He joins us now. Zweli, he's also an editor and a journalist, writing and immersed himself in the current issues of the Kingdom of Eswatini. My brother, it's always a great pleasure talking to you. Good evening.
Good evening, my brother. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about Lungisi Makhanya, 46-year-old, and I understand that he's been living in exile, particularly among the countries that he's lived in is South Africa, and many others that he's managed to find refuge. Talk us through what's really happening and what has since been briefed to yourselves. What is it that is on the ground about this particular poison scare or these attempts of assassination?
Okay, thank you. In the end hours on Tuesday, I received a call. That was around 12:15 a.m. I received a call from a source that the PUDEMO president, that is Lungisi Makhanya, was in the house. And in fact, he tried to call someone, even though his condition was worsening. So there are some of his comrades who tried to visit him in his house. And unfortunately, the gate was locked. He was locked and poisoned him. So I was able to follow what was happening to the source who was on the ground, and we spoke for about 20 minutes over the phone because he didn't drop the phone while he was trying to gain entry in the house that is in Pretoria. And so what has transpired there, they managed to break in and take him to hospital. He was a suspect is believed to have locked him inside the house after poisoning him. And the police were called, they escorted them to hospital. But taking him into context with regards to this whole thing and the persecution of the PUDEMO president, Lungisi Makhanya, as I've just mentioned, is the president of the main liberation movement in Eswatini, that is PUDEMO. So during the political unrest, he was one of those who were driving the agenda for democracy. As you know, that Eswatini is an absolute monarchy. There is no democracy there. So, in 2022, at the peak of the political unrest, his house was bombed with military weapons. In fact, if you look at the pictures, and I had the privilege to speak to him and assess some of the evidence or parts of the bombs that were left in the house that was bombed, his house in Eswatini, not the one in Pretoria. And they were trying to assassinate him in 2022. And they received some information that he was inside the house with his wife and family. Unfortunately, he was not there. And he fled to South Africa because you will understand that he is one of the drivers of the agenda to democratize Eswatini. So the regime has been hunting him ever since the previous assassination attempt that was in 2022. So the information that we have for now, of course, which we still verifying part of it, suggests that the regime managed to can you hear me?
I can, Zweli, I can.
Yes, the information that we have suggests that the regime managed to gain access to one of his trusted comrades, who who is believed to have poisoned him. And we know the suspect, but of course we haven't named the suspect due to medical reasons because he hasn't been charged.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Sure.
Unless we have some questions.
Yeah, it's just somewhat of a somber day for many of our Maswati who are mainly living in South Africa, either for issues of the calls for pro-democracy or some who have sought refuge in our country. What sort of mood then does it somewhat paint for those who have fled the kingdom, seeking refuge in a country like South Africa, and one of the main opposition leaders, then there are attempts to obviously have him dead in his own residential estate in a different country. What does it say, about the Maswati who have left? Do you think that, or rather, how best do you describe their mood now who are in South Africa? And even a person like yourself who has since been declared a terrorist in the Kingdom of Eswatini.
Thank you for that question. Yesterday I was speaking to various international journalists with regards to this matter. It's not only Louis Makanya who's being handed. There's another woman, the human rights lawyer by the name of Merida Silva, who is also on the hit list of the regime and also in hiding. So we've been consistently reporting about these things. Police officers, soldiers crossing the border to South Africa to hunt political activists and human rights defenders. And even before the assassination of human rights lawyer Masego, we were reporting because we focus more on investigative journalism and we managed to get some of this information. So I think what needs to be done now, the matter must be taken up at the highest level of the South African government, because if a political activist or a journalist or human rights defender is hiding in another country for political reasons, fearing for political persecution, that person is under the territory of a foreign country.
Sure.
So if the Swatini regime invades a foreign country to hunt political activists, then something must be done.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Another thing that could be done, which is maybe to lobby for something, because South Africa is quite influential when it comes to Eswatini's economy. So there's something that could be done just to strengthen the country.
I fully agree with you. My brother, take solace and take the courage, continue waging the good fight. And I really want to thank you so much for making time to speak to us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
There you have him. He's Zweli Dlamini. He's a journalist and editor of Swazi News. Do check it out. It's online, and we somewhat feed from each other. He's a great friend of our show. Really appreciate him having spoken to us about the recent incidents that involves activist and as well as PUDEMO's president, Umlungisi Makanya. Yeah, really appreciate the conversation. On that front, Mpumalanga, thank you so much for having lent us your ears. Coming up next is Rise FM Evenings. Do take care. Good night.
And that was Rise FM in 60 minutes. Join Musa Skosana every Monday to Thursday as he keeps you